thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. This is Up for a Chat with Cyndi O'Meara, Carren Smith, and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Carren Smith.
And I'm Cyndi O'Meara.
And we don't have our little hussy, little tart, little Kimmy. She's not with us right now because she's actually on a plane to Paris. Not sure quite how I feel about that.
Either. I want to go.
Oh, I'm so jelly bean. She's thumbing her way through the lavender fields in Provence. Oh, my goodness, with a group of people that she's taken over there. I think she does this every year, doesn't she, Cyndi?
She does. She goes somewhere interesting, and I don't know why I don't go with her.
Well,
but anyway.
We go. What's wrong with us?
I don't know. I don't know why I didn't even think about it. It would have been fun. But you know what? Someone has to do the show, and that's you and me.
And that's true too. So excitingly, even though we don't have our Kimmy, we have a very amazing guest on the show with us. And this guest is somebody that I've been working with for quite a number of years. So I'm very, very excited and very proud to bring him to the Up for a Chat audience. So we've got the amazing Scott Allan on the show with us today. And the reason that I wanted to bring Scott on is because, you know, Cyndi, we talk a lot about health and well-being. We talk a lot about Western medicine and a lot about Western health and allied health and different techniques and strategies that can help keep our bodies well. But there's something that I guess is an alternative that we've never really discussed on the show. And for me personally, I love the Eastern philosophy. And, you know, most of the time when we bring questions up about what's going on with ourselves, I'll dive straight into the Eastern philosophy around, you know, mindset and psychology and spirituality. And it makes sense then that we would have an Ayurvedic practitioner, Ayurvedic expert on the show with us today. And I think for me, I love the fact that Ayurveda has been said to be around for 5,000 or 6,000 years and possibly even longer, which makes it so much more of a mature system when it comes to looking at health and well-being and natural ways of supporting ourselves. So, Scott Allan, you are the head of the Yoga and Ayurvedic clinic here on the Sunshine Coast. And I'm so excited to introduce you to our listeners. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Carren. And Cyndi, thanks for having me, and really appreciate you inviting me to the meeting and taking the time to ask a few questions and talk about these topics. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting show. Why don't you start off with telling us, Scott, before we dive into any of the juicy, meaty, gorgeous stuff, why don't you tell us about your juicy, meaty, gorgeous story about how you came about Ayurveda and why you chose that, and your beautiful wife Kim, who supports you as well. The two of you have been on such a journey together. Tell our listeners about how you guys met and what took you down the path of Ayurveda.
Well, I guess, you know, like many young people, you have a lot of questions about life, you know, and I had a fair few when I was, you know, 18 or so, and I guess that, you know, led me to moving from where I lived and experiencing different, you know, ways of life. And along that way, I met my wife, Kim, and who was a yoga teacher at the time. And I was cooking as a chef at the time, and I had a real big interest in food, and I was, you know, starting to look after myself and you know, for once in my life, which I hadn't done in the past. And then I thought about studying, you know, that had something to do with food other than just being a chef and making food look fancy. I wanted to know, you know, what it was doing to my body and how it could make me more healthy and that. And so through meeting Kim, because she had been doing yoga for some time, she's, you know, I looked into studying naturopathy, nutrition, dietetics, and then she said, why don't you look at Ayurveda, you know? And that's how I got interested. I think I had a couple of consultations to begin with. We're in India, so I got introduced to it over there as well. So slowly over time, my interest built, and it was mainly for my own health. I really didn't have any, I didn't have any major health concerns. I was probably, a little bit low on energy, but probably my main thing is I was looking for something that would give me a happy life, something that where I could feel had some answers to that side of things. And for me, Ayurveda kind of covered all those aspects. So not just about my physical well-being, but a lot about my mental and spiritual well-being as well.
I think it's really interesting you say you had some questions when you were younger, and you were kind of a bit of a seeker. You were searching for some answers to, as you say, the spiritual and making you happy. What do what sort of questions were they? What sort of questions used to keep you up at night?
Well, at the time, I was I probably had probably the worst part of my life was around about 14 to 18 when I first left New Zealand and sort of took off to Australia to find some different things. And I think most of the time I was up late at night. I was suffering from insomnia. I was diagnosed as for depression, and they tried to medicate me for that, and which I wasn't too fond of, and it was kind of just messing with my mind a bit more. And at the same time, while that was getting addressed, I was suffering from alcohol abuse as well.
Wow.
So I was getting involved in that, so I really wasn't in a good space. And I think in that moment, I don't know, it was kind of like a moment where I kind of felt like I was going a bit insane. And I think it was in that moment that I asked the question of, I really want to know a bit more about life and what else is out there other than just this, than drinking and abusing my body and just being involved where I'm just feeling lots of suffering, So I think that just I kind of mulled that over in my mind so much one time that I had a moment of clarity, and that was just to go off and find it. And I think through the different steps of moving and with that subconscious thought in your background for so long, you just naturally start meeting people and that who are kind of guiding you in that right direction.
It's amazing how that sort of thing happens when, well, there's two things that I think are amazing about just that part of your story is that even though you were going down that path of almost self-abuse and also feeling, that sense of depression, there was a part of you that knew there was an alternative. There was a part of you that knew that didn't feel right. And I think a lot of younger people, as they go through that phase in their lives, they do know that it's not optimal. They do know that there's something better for themselves, but I don't think that many, well, it's probably a very general statement I was about to make there, but I don't know that too many people know that there are alternatives that will provide them just as much happiness and just as much sense of freedom and life and vitality.
Yeah, exactly. I had no idea. Like if you mentioned anything like yoga or Eastern philosophy or Ayurveda to me around that time, I wouldn't have known what you're talking about. Like what do you mean? I don't know. But around that time, really no one is explaining much about life as well. I mean, I've got good parents, but no one is telling me or explaining about what is mind and what is body and what is spirit and any of these things. So. And I think when you slowly start to get introduced to these questions getting answered, then it really, everything starts to make a bit more sense.
I think that's the hard thing, is that there is that's not happening anymore. There's not, like if you look at the Australian Aboriginal communities 200 years ago compared to now, they've lost their culture, their traditions, their learnings, their resilience, and all of those things. And we can say this about any culture around the world, but nobody talks about the white man's culture. And we're just we're in as much a crisis as anybody else, because we're not given those, mind, body, spirit. It just seems to be the body at the moment. No one's thinking about the importance of the spirit and the mind. And I had a discussion with somebody, and I said to them that the world's gone mad. There's 5G, there's glyphosate, there's vaccine issues, everybody's got an issue about something, and there's activism about everything. And they said, you have to rise above that, Cyndi. You have to rise to what the spirit needs. And, I still don't comprehend that yet. But I agree with you. I think there's a lot of people that were probably in your position, and I love the synchronicity of the right people came into your life at the right time in order for you to be where you are right now. Can you explain what is Ayurveda?
Well, there's many different definitions of Ayurveda. There's sometimes it can be quite hard to explain, but I guess really you could call it a holistic medical system from India. So it's an ancient way of healing the body, but I guess more an ancient way of healing the body, so the body becomes stronger and looks after itself. It's a complete medical system. So they had like different branches of medicine for surgery and women's health and infants and diet and all these different aspects to it. So it's a full, complete medical system from India, holistic medical system.
And so when you talk about, there's a women's, there's a children's, or infants, there's the surgery, there's all the different aspects. What, from your experience, and I know that this is probably a question that is, maybe 5 hours long, but from your experience, what do you think is the distinction between the Eastern medical system and the Western medical system? What do you think the difference is?
Well, look, I learned both. So the difference is, one thing that definitely, the similarity is they're talking about the body, So they're both talking about the body. Probably definitely Ayurveda's significant difference is it's not just body, it's about how you can nurture and look after you and understand your mind as well, that mind approach, and not mind based on, your brain inside your skull. More to do when they talk about the mind resides in the heart center, and then from there stems out to all the different cells in the body. So it has that significant difference with it, and then it has that element of so it kind of works on a tripod. You have like the mind aspect, looking after the body, but then you have that aspect that's also understands the importance of the soul or the spirit or something like that. So it kind of works off those three different parts. And when you work off a system like that, you have a you know how to nurture and understand the mind, you know how to nurture and understand the body, and then you understand about like your relationship with soul or spirit, then you have a really complete system. If you're just working off body, you can fix the body up a bit, but then if the mind is in a total rigid state, or it's in a depressed state or agitated state, that just has a physiological effect again on the body. So then it pulls the body back out of that imbalance, So you're kind of just working back and forth. They're kind of ping-ponging off each other, trying to keep each one balanced. I think that's probably one of the significant differences.
That's just huge. And when I think about people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, and, there are many, many others, Dr. Bruce Lipton, there are many, many others now that are coming out and talking about that heart center, and they're talking about that mind-body connection. It's very different, of course, to what Eastern philosophy talks about, but it almost seems like there's a slow creeping towards that holistic approach to health. and wellness, where we're starting to open our eyes that it's not just a physical issue anymore. Mm-hmm. Do you see that in your travels?
Oh, look, in the clinic, when you, I mean, that's the main thing that we're dealing with the majority of the time is helping people to understand how they can keep their stress levels down, how they can keep a more stronger, resilient mental state. And I mean, that doesn't, and they might just be coming in for something with a digestion issue. And like I've mentioned before, you know, we've spoke about it before. And, you know, even when it comes to treating digestion, and they're like, right, can you give me the herb that will help get my microbiome right? Will you give me the herb that will help set my digestive system right? And I don't even give these people some herbs for their digestion at all, and work more on stabilizing the mind and that aspect, and bringing that to their attention, and you get a result just through that, you know. So yeah, it's pretty significant. As part of our practice, we always include bringing that understanding about the mind with each client into the equation as well. And that understanding is based on the 3 different gunas, what they call the 3 gunas. Like if you heard of Ayurveda and then you understand, oh, you know, there's a Vata type, there's a Pitta type, there's a Kapha body type. Those are body types. Those body types have behavioral characteristics. And a lot of the time people are assuming, right, those behaviors are to do with Vata, or that's to do with Pitta or Kapha. But what governs the mind is, and your different ways of thinking are based on the 3 gunas called Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas.
So explain what each of those means.
They're just different qualities that the mind has too. You have to remember that Ayurveda is a system of medicine that explains that relationship from consciousness to matter. So that matter is based on your 5 elements and your body type, your dosha or whatever. And within that encompasses your 3 gunas of the mind. So 3 states of mind, and everyone has the 3 states of mind. It's Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Sattva can be classified as a clear state of mind. Rajas can be understood as like a agitated state of mind, and Tamas a more dull state of mind. So we all have these combinations of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas in us, and ultimately what Ayurveda is doing is helping the person to get more a clear state of mind. So when you're in a more clear state of mind, then you can make more better choices, you're more resilient to certain situations, and ultimately that's exactly what yoga is doing as well. So it's moving away from agitation and dullness to a more clear, light, and clear feeling.
What I find interesting is that when we asked you, you know, what is Ayurveda, and you said, well, it's very much like Western medicine. You know, we have women's health and digestive health and things like that. But Western medicine segregates the brain and the mind from the body. But it sounds like every single modality that's there is always the mind first. Am I right? Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, I guess, you know, that I think that comes down to the individual practitioner too, and how they approach things. Maybe some Ayurvedic practitioners are more, you know, body-based, but I think, you know, with our life experience between me and Kim and the way we approach the clinic is we definitely approach it with a more looking after the mind and understanding the mind as well approach. You know, like that's why people come in, you know, we get them to do a checklist of these 3 gunas to see where they're at. And, you know, if there's too much rajas, too much agitation, or there's too much dullness, you know, why this is happening and how you can come out of it. Yeah.
So in terms of... Oh, sorry, Cyndi.
No, go on.
No, I was just going to say, so say somebody comes in and because I would imagine most people, you know, in Western society, they would probably relate to you and treat you the same way that they would treat a doctor. So if something's wrong, they go in and see you. Mm-hmm. And it's not usually something, I would imagine, if somebody's going to approach an Ayurvedic clinic for the first time, they might have stomach issues, or they may have back pain, or they may have, issues with their health, or whatever the case might be.
Mm-hmm.
So they come in and they approach you that way.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to you treating them and you sit down and say, well, tell me about your mind state, is it aggravated, is it dull, or is it, clear and vital?
Mm-hmm.
How do people actually respond to that as a method of treatment? Because I'm sure they would be very surprised that you would go there as part of the is diagnosis a word that you even use?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's something that, like most people that come to Ayurveda, they're very new to it anyway, So, we never approach things with just going into straight away to go, okay, what is the mind state and things like this, and never really worry about that to begin with.
Right.
Because you just when they come in for Ayurveda, like I've heard before, like when you're teaching someone Ayurveda, you're teaching them how to swim again. It's like teaching someone how to swim again. So it's only step-by-step process, we go through, and if need be, and you can see some repetitive things happening in their life, that things aren't changing in that, then we bring up these factors about like letting the client understand about the nature of the mind. So when we start to include that part, we don't necessarily say, look, this is your dull state or agitated state or clear state. We just get them to do a checklist. You can actually feel through the pulse as well, that those different states of mind, and then give them a bit of an understanding of that from that direction, so how they can go more forward with their wellness programs, so how they can go more forward, better direction with their own health. And it's more just understanding if it's more Rajas dominant, if it's more Tamas dominant, just working on old patterns, old ways of thinking and old ways of doing things and stuff like that. So it's just about bringing that to the surface, and people are really, I think, intrigued by that. When you start to bring that element in, it's just another dimension that they can add to their wellness program, so they can look after themselves. It's another way they can look at themselves on a daily basis of, am I making the right choices? Am I thinking the right things? What are the thoughts, emotions, and that I'm having? How are they impacting on me? Which way? How can I make my life a much better life by maybe doing it a little bit differently?
And have you seen any trends or any, I guess, what am I trying to say? As time goes on and Western medicine starts to identify different issues that could be potentially causing illness, like the immune system or the gut microbiome or, EMFs, are you seeing trends in people presenting with those sorts of problems? Are you seeing the same sorts of things?
I think, these trends, they definitely come along, because, person might come in and they say, I have, maybe what you mean by in terms of trend, maybe it means something like I have an intolerance or something like that. Like I have an intolerance to a certain food, or intolerances to all these foods, or allergies or something like that.
Yeah, because that's, become a lot more prevalent lately. And I was just curious, because I'm sure a lot of doctors are seeing a lot more people saying, I have food intolerances, or a lot more people saying, I'm so much more bloated. And from the education and the information that's out there, the answers are all gut microbiome, and it's an immunity, and it's gluten this, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I was interested to see whether you get the same patients coming in saying the same things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, yeah, got that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's a big thing, because they're coming out into us with asking those questions, and but they're coming into us because they're not getting that result from what they've been told about that food intolerance or what they've been asked to avoid and things like that. They're like, the problem is still there, and my health has improved. They'll say, I've made changes and my health has improved, but the problem is still there, and I'm wondering what Ayurvedic understanding is on this that can help me out. And I think that's why people come. We're last resort for people, when after all the quick fixes, after they tried the mainstream and things like that, we're people's last resort, where they just want, they've had enough. They want this just finished with. So definitely we see lots of people come in like that, and then we give them a different. It's not different because Ayurveda is trying to be different because it wants to gain some momentum or anything like that. It's just a different perspective because this is the way it has been and what has been taught in Ayurveda for thousands of years because it's worked. And that difference is just looking at, we don't look at food based on that nutritional value in Ayurveda. We look at food based on different qualities, different gunas. In Ayurveda, they look at the digestive system in a different way as well. So once people get an understanding of, food from a guna perspective, a quality perspective, and that quality doesn't mean like, oh, look, it's organic, it's biodynamic, it's this or that. We're not talking about that quality. Gunas are different qualities that have a different effect on each body. It has an action on the dosha. It has an actual action. It has an action on the tissue. There's 7 different tissues in Ayurveda. It has an action on the waste from the body. It also has an action on the mind, and it is made of one or two particular different type of elements as well. So
Can you give an example of that?
I was going to ask the same question.
It's so funny. You've asked all the questions I wanted to ask. It's been so synchronistic. It's mind-blowing at the moment, actually, how you've asked the questions I wanted to ask. I went, oh, my gosh. And then you've answered things that I've had in my mind, Scott. I've thought it in my mind, and then you just go and say it, and I go, wow. So, the answer, give me examples of food, because, I'm a nutritionist, so it's all about quality for me.
Yep.
But obviously very, very different to what you're talking about. So let's have some examples of that. Yeah,
for sure. And probably just even leading on from what you're saying, I have to kind of laugh because, I had a really, really good teacher that it just propelled me forward amazingly with my, with my clinic career. And he used to say, Ayurveda is just, there's many different definitions for Ayurveda, like science of longevity, science of, understanding oneself or universe. But he used to say one of the definitions he liked is Ayurveda is just the science of remembering. So it's actually everything's there. And we know what it is.
Yes.
And it's just plucking it,
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, because I often hear people say we're just here to remind you, and I know Carren says it too. We're just here to remind the soul, the body, the mind what it needs, and we all know common sense, but we've lost that ability to have that common sense, and we all have lost our intuition. So please put some intuition and some remembering back in for us.
So tell us about those examples of the food and the gunas.
Yeah, gunas are, one aspect on quality, which you mentioned, definitely always good quality we always look at in Ayurveda for sure. Like, we're always backing that organic way of eating if you can. Definitely that's a big part. But guna quality is based on the element of that specific food substance. So you have each person is an individual constitution in Ayurveda. That's what makes it such a unique science as well, because it is individual medicine, right? Based on that individual person, their dosha, their genetic makeup. So you can be, Vata Pitta Kapha. There are 3 different types. You can be many a Vata Pitta or Pitta Kapha or whatever, and each dosha is made up of the specific elements. And then those elements in turn have specific qualities, right? Because everything in the world is made up of the 5 elements in Ayurveda. Space, fire, water, and earth. 5 elements. Now, if you think about it, those 5 elements, they sustain life. You know, if the space research people are looking for other places on different planets, they are looking for 5 elements without even thinking about the 5 elements. You know, they're looking for fire, water, space, earth. They need all these elements for there to be life. So each element has a specific guna to it, specific quality about it. So if that is in us, then those 5 elements are in everything, right? So we're interrelated with everything. So different foods have made up of these elements, then which have different qualities about them. For example, and it's a very simple way of doing it. Say you have a quality which will be, they call it guru, which is heavy, and it has an action, and that heavy action, because it is made up of earth and water elements are naturally more heavier than the space and air elements. It has a stabilizing action. Whereas if you take the lagu, which is light, it's opposite. It is more made up of space and air elements, so that makes it a lighter action. So therefore, that type of guna will be more appropriate for a kapha type that naturally has heavy elements. So kapha type means bigger body frame person, more overweight person or something like that. Whereas the guru heavy quality will be best for a vata balance in person that needs stabilizing. So the vata person is more thinner. They have a tendency for it's a harder weight to be put on the body. So we look at these different elements within food and how that affects that person, and that's how they look at nutrition.
So let's just say cauliflower.
Yeah.
Good question.
I mean, to put that into context, certainly not understanding completely, not with the expertise obviously that you do, but if a person's looking at the farmer's market and they're looking at cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and yogurt. Mm. Mm-hmm. And they're, let's say, we'll use me as an example. So I'm a vata with a kapha combination. So explain a cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts yogurt in terms of those qualities.
Yeah, sure. So, okay, so I guess it's a really different way of thinking, you know, when we're looking at this Ayurveda way of looking at dietetics. There are many aspects to the dietetics as well, and this is just one part, you know, it's not all of it. But, and I guess even when people come in to see me at the clinic, they're like, oh, you know, what about this and what about that? And I'm like, that's why you come to see me. You don't come in to get a Western perspective with Western terminology and stuff like that. You can see someone else for that if you want.
Yeah.
But here we're just explaining Ayurveda and nothing else, you know. So definitely we'll look at something like the yogurt, and that will be have the heavy quality to it. So then it's kapha increasing. So it can cause more blockages in the system. It can be too cold, increase too much mucus in that. So it wouldn't be advised to have and things like that. But then this is a different aspect about Ayurveda, because we need each of the specific different tastes in the body too. And food can be altered to make it more compatible for that body type as well. So there's another aspect that they bring in called Karana, which means preparation methods. So it will be more easily balancing to that body type as opposed to causing more an imbalance. So that type of thing we would look at. And then if you took it's the same thing. You took a cauliflower broccoli, it might have more light and kind of live aspects to it, or astringent aspects to it, or drying aspects to it in the terms of quality. Then we would say that could imbalance vata. But then if you cook it, and then you cook it with ghee and you cook it with spice, and you bring out its natural energy within the food as well, then it starts to balance those doshas as well. So preparation is a major thing in Ayurveda, and altering the food to make it more compatible to the body as well.
Do you think they did that preparation with, like the cinnamons and all of that beautiful, those Indian spices? Do you think it was an intuitive thing? That in South America there's a tribe that say the plants speak to them and tell them what they should combine and what they shouldn't combine. And I'm just wondering, is it the same in India? Was it an intuitive thing of their combination? Was it a trial and error of what spice they should cook with what food in order to change the what is it called again? Sorry, I don't know Ayurveda very well. Yeah, the qualities. So how did that come about? How did they know? Like chai tea. Like look at chai tea.
Yeah, like and when you make something like chai tea, that's from an Ayurvedic understanding, that's like what they call that more medicine. When it's made the Ayurvedic way, it's more medicine. So you're boiling these spices to get the natural oils out of them, right? And then when they make it in Ayurveda, you put the tea and the milk in there at the same time, and it's had with milk. It's unhomogenized milk. So they see that drink as being both anabolic and catabolic. So it helps to break down any toxins, but also it helps to nurture the body. So all Ayurvedic ways of doing things, and including eating, has that balance. You always some aspect there of like detoxification and rejuvenation happening in an even balance, always. So I guess a really hard question to answer, because I always ask that too. I'm like, how do they know this, Like and when you look into Ayurveda, it's mind-boggling how they knew all these things. I mean, they knew the different aspects of the body, like the different doshas have sub-doshas, and one of them in your mouth is called bodhika kapha, which means that's where your first stage of digestion takes place, And I mean, I always think of that, and I'm like, and then you look at the Western perspective, they say the same thing. It's like, how did they know this, I can't answer that. I mean, I think, trial and error was definitely there. It would have to be, but they are very clear individuals. It was delivered from what they call rishis or seers, who are very enlightened, knowledgeable people as well.
Look, I just find it fascinating. Like the Australian Aboriginal people, we know that there are many foods in the landscape that are toxic, but their knowledge of preparation makes them untoxic, and it could be soaking, crushing, cooking, fermenting, whatever it is that they did, they were able to eat the food in the Australian landscape, especially out in the middle of nowhere. They ate nadu, and nadu is a seed that if you eat it raw, it will take B1 out of the system, and you will die slowly of a B1 deficiency. And they say that that's what Burke and Wills died of. Yet the Australian Aboriginal people knew that it had to be soaked overnight, crushed, soaked, and then it had to be cooked in order for them to make a bread out of it. And that's just one food. What you look at the foods around Australia, and so I'm assuming, the Indians must have done this in some way for them to have that incredible knowledge. I remember as a 19-year-old reading the book Clan of the Cave Bear. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it was based on a time when a lady by the name of Alya, her parents died, and she was brought up by Neanderthal man, and she was human. And it was her knowledge of the herbs and everything like that. And that's what got me as a 19-year-old interested in herbs and nutrition and food, but I never learnt that when I went to uni. I got to tell you that. I was very disappointed when I went to uni, but maybe I should have done Ayurvedic. It just sounds incredible, Scott. Absolutely.
It is, it is especially when, like the more and more I go along in my clinic, the more and more changes you see in individuals, and like deep changes. And they're nothing, I always say to people, even the ones, suffering really bad chronic disease, there's no fancy stuff when you come in here, there's no quick fix. And we're going to have you feeling fantastic, any of that. It's going to take time, but when you put the effort in, you put your focus there, it will definitely pay off, and it always does. You see people with arthritis and things like that, and you explain these things. You need to do it for this long and like that, and you say, and I had one guy come into my clinic the other day, and he's like, "Oh, my hands are just perfectly normal now. I can do all my work but he's been putting the effort in for a good year and doing the things he's meant to be doing and things like that, because he's understanding the Ayurveda as we go along. It's not something you get from one consult. It's it's getting involved and that type of thing. But it's really beautiful to see that happening. It's not just we're not giving him like an anti-inflammatory approach, like, oh, well, here's all your anti-inflammatories. It's more than that. We're looking at things a lot differently, and that's what makes it so effective.
And I guess it takes us a little bit of time to remember what we've got to do. It's about awakening that innate intelligence that's within our body and feeding it the right things in order for it to be healthy itself. And we have this belief, I believe, in Western medicine that there's a one fix all. Like, there's so many multi-level marketing people out there, and it's like, this is all you have to do. You don't have to change anything else, not your lifestyle, not the sunlight, not the sleep, not the food that you consume. You just have to take this and you'll be fine. And I hear this every week, it feels like. And I love the fact that we're starting to realize that it's not a one fix all, one pill, one fix all for all. It's actually very, very different. Now, I want to go back to the cauliflower. I do. I want to go back to the cauliflower, because how do we prepare cauliflower in order for it, and what do we prepare it with? Because cauliflower is one of those foods that is not the best for me, and I know it. But I want to know, is there a way I can prepare it, and what can I add to it in order for my body to be able to handle it? And I know you don't know me, but I'm just wondering, is there that magic little way?
Totally, because it even there's these aspects that we look at that, maybe this way, this food substance might not be best for your constitution, or this one might be okay, but then if you change it and alter it a little bit by cooking it or preparing a different way, it will be. So coming to the cauliflower, definitely, because, if you look at if you go, like many people go online when they hear about Ayurveda, and they'll go, okay, I looked at the online list of what I should avoid from Vata, I looked at the online list of what I should avoid from Kapha, and then Pitta or whatever, and they're looking like, I don't know, I can't eat anything, And it's like, well, this is a different, this is a special thing about Ayurveda, is when you're cooking specific for your Agni or your digestion, and then you're taking a few things out that don't suit the constitution as well. So definitely food altering and preparation is big there. So if you take something like cauliflower, it would be seen or classified as like being more aggravating to like a Vata constitution. So it will create more wind, it would create more gas and more coldness in the body. So that can be Vata aggravating, that can cause the bloating, that can cause the discomfort in the stomach, that can cause, lead on to, things like constipation and things like that. That can then affect, things like the function of the menstrual cycle and stuff like that. So in order to have the cauliflower, it's not that you have to make cauliflower the bad guy or anything like that, but in order to make it more compatible for the body, you cook it And when you cook it with spices like cumin seeds. You cook it with ajwain seeds, because the ajwain will help to neutralize the gas formation from these kind of gassy type vegetables. And you can, even if that is not working, you can put some hing in there, or asafoetida, which helps to neutralize that gas formation from these gassy forming foods, similar to like cooking lentils and things like that too. So if you cook it that way, it will, and cook it well, especially the cauliflower, give it a good, a really good cook, and that will help. And if you use the ghee on top of that to cook it with, and if you're not a ghee fan, that's cool.
Oh, no, I'm a ghee fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the spoonful.
So if you look at all those aspects, or you make something called like a sabji, which just means well cooked vegetables. Like then you might have it with that and a few other veggies or something like that. Then that will you'll find that you shouldn't have any issues with that,
Good. I'm going to give it a go.
It's so fascinating. I went and did I've done heaps of different cooking classes with Scott, and it's so interesting to see how Ayurveda is almost a process when it comes to food. And correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, I could be way off on this, but it's almost, to me, it feels like with what I have taken in is that when I'm eating my food, when I'm eating according to the Ayurvedic way, I'm eating for health. I'm not just eating for enjoyment. I'm eating for the health of my body. And I'm almost experiencing the Ayurvedic cooking methodology almost as alchemical.
Yeah.
So previously, and I'm somebody who likes to try lots of different things to try and figure out what's going to be best for my body. And so previously I've been raw vegan for, 10 years or so. And it's so interesting to see how cooking the food using the certain spices makes me feel lighter.
Yeah.
Takes away the bloating.
Yeah.
And I would never have even considered that, because I would have always thought that eating raw food, I never need to eat, I don't need to eat that much when I'm eating raw food, because it's so nutrient dense, and you physically can't eat a half a cauliflower. You can only have a couple of florets and then you're done. But it's so interesting to me the way that when you do your cooking classes, how you get your butter, you pop it in the pot and you boil it until the milk solids leave it. And that makes the ghee, and it's changed the chemical composition of the ghee to make it more digestible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the spices in the milk is what makes it more digestible. And talk to us about your approach to the food allergies, because I loved that when I spoke to you about that, and you said you see people coming in with this great long list, as I did, of all of the things that we're allergic to. Tell us about how you approach that. I think that's gold.
Yeah. When this happens, when person is at that stage, first they come in really anxious about food, which is, it's sad to see, they don't know what to eat, things affect them really badly and things like this. And then they're told all this bad news and this and that, and it seems to, create some real fear behind that food too. So basically, if you're going to get that test or tests done and things like that, unless it's something, if you're celiac, that's a different thing. You're born with that, that's fine. But most of the time when people get these tests, they have in them what they Ayurveda calls ama. So that ama means it's it's a generalized term for toxins. And that ama can be of a different type. It can be like a more vata ama, which is more drying, or it can be more pitta ama, which is too heating, or it could be kapha ama, where it's kind of blocking all channels. So when ama has disturbed the digestive system, it disturbs its natural chemical balance in that digestive system, then of course you're not going to be able to eat lots of different foods. So when you get tested or something like that, or food allergy tested, your body's not really in a prime state anyway, so it's not in a balanced state. But when we work with the client to get there, we look at the digestive system, we do a diagnosis through the tongue. You can understand that the is there. You can feel through the pulse that digestion's not right. You can maybe look in the eyes and understand there's been a long history of digestion problems. When we start to eliminate the from what they call anavahashrota, so they have their digestive system, just like GI tract that they call in modern terms, they just call it anavahashrota in Ayurveda. When you start to eliminate all the toxicity out of their area by educating them what they can do in the morning, these are the herbs that are anti-ama herbs. And then if you prepare the food this way, you'll be able to definitely digest that again, and then you can be free from some of these allergies and things like that, because there are no allergies in Ayurveda. The allergy only means there is ama in the body, and the body's not dealing with certain situations or certain foods and things like that.
Scott, why do you think there's more of that happening in the last decade or 15 years than there has been? But nobody was complaining about it when I first started nutrition 40 years ago. So why is there more happening now? Is there something on a conscious level, unconscious level, physical plane that is causing it, or are we just not taking the time to prepare our food properly?
Yeah, I guess there's there's just people not putting themselves first to look after themselves and just rushing too much. It's just all about the rushing too much and not understanding how their body's feeling there just seems to be a lot of rushing and then allergies come up and I guess there's that loss of connection somewhere along the line from because people are living more isolated. They're not living with their mum and dad anymore. They might be on the other side of Australia. They're not living with their grandparents anymore. So there's some kind of loss of information getting transferred as well, and things are a bit harder in that aspect when you're independent like that as a family. So I guess all those things add to the equation. So people just doing their best, and so common sense is a little bit lost there, and education on what to do is a little bit lost. Like the little kids come up with all the allergies and things like that too, but in Ayurveda it's like there's no allergy. It's just like he has an allergy to milk, but no, in Ayurveda he doesn't have an allergy to milk. You just need to have the milk in the most wholesome, in this terms, buy the best quality, buy the organic milk, but you need to boil it. You need to boil it, and then you need to add the spice in it, and that will make it more accessible for the body as well, And when they start doing things like that, they get the difference. But yeah, I guess that could be some of the reasons why these things are coming up, Fear, marketing, all those things can be. I guess it's dynamic.
I think it's interesting that you say that, because I think intuitively we really have lost touch with how our bodies work and what makes us feel good. We're not present. We will eat a whole bunch of stuff that makes us feel like hell, or where we lose energy, or we feel bloated, or we get pains and aches, and then we'll start paying a little bit of attention and then saying that it's all food allergies. But I think if we had that beautiful hand-me-down information that it's come from generation after generation after generation, like the Indigenous people, like you mentioned, Cyndi, and obviously, in Ayurveda it's handed down, then we would know how to prepare our foods properly. We would know how to listen to our bodies. We would put ourselves before stress. We would live more wholesome lives. And I love, you said this to me the last time I went in for a consultation with you. You said Ayurveda is like the science of longevity. And it's almost as if once a person builds a relationship with an Ayurvedic way of relating to their food, their mind, their body, and their soul, then it becomes a mechanism for health rather than the way that we treat, the way that most people work with their doctors allopathically is they go in when they're sick.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see that somebody would be sick to start off with Ayurveda, but once they build a relationship with Ayurveda and understanding what that's all about, like you say, it becomes a science of longevity where you keep yourself well by maintaining those ways of relating to food and relating to life.
Yeah, definitely. There's what they say, like they say in Ayurveda. There's drowning in a sea of information, but starved for knowledge. That's one of the things that comes up, and that's what Ayurveda is. It's that knowledge. It's always been there. There's nothing has changed about the advice or anything like that. It's just like, this is it. And it's like that. And I mean, when you first take that approach on as a practitioner, you're like, yeah, there's doubt there, You doubt it, but you implement it on your life. And I mean, I brought up my children before they were even born. We started looking after ourselves, and we brought all our children up on, Ayurveda and the vegetarian, and they don't have any allergies. We take them places here, there, and everywhere, and everyone says how well your kids are behaved and things like that, and we don't normally see that. And I don't tell them anything, I'm just like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, they're just good kids, But if I didn't prepare the milk properly for these kids, or I didn't prepare certain things properly for them, they would develop an allergy for sure. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? So before we finish up, because we're coming to the end of the show, and I'm sure, Cyndi, you've got 100 more questions.
Oh, I've just loved this. I have just, I love Indian food, and I love the curries, and I love all of that beautiful thing, but I didn't comprehend the whole thing about it. So I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, thank you as well, Cyndi. I mean, I've seen you around for a long time, and read different things about what you're doing in that, and it's all. I've always loved it. I've always thought, oh, this is good direction. For people, it's whole food. It's just keeping things simple and things like that, which is really good. Yeah,
quality and how we prepare it is my mantra, and it's obviously, part of the mantra of the Ayurvedic, but in a very different way, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, fantastic, yeah.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for being on the show, and I really hope, and Scott and I had this conversation earlier, but I just my wish and my hope is that the Ayurvedic philosophy and the Ayurvedic way of relating to life becomes more prolific for people, and we start to feel a lot more inner peace and inner calm when it comes to the very things that sustain us. So go Ayurveda. Let's, for everybody that's listening to the show, find your local Ayurvedic practitioner. If you live around on the Sunshine Coast or Brisbane or the Gold Coast, make your way up to Budrum and make your way over to meeting with Scott and Kim and just have a session with them, and then indulge in some fantastic massages. Oh, my God. The Ayurvedic massages, they're all about healing and well-being, but I can tell you now, hands down, there is no better treatments. There are no better treatments than the Ayurvedic treatments. There's just nothing compares on the marketplace. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Scott, you've been amazing. Thank you so much. So for all of our listeners, how can they track you down? What's the best website? Where can they go to find out more about you?
Well, you can go, there's a website we have, yoga ayurveda center.com.au, and you can read more information on there, or you can just call us, make a booking. You can go on Facebook. We're on Facebook, social media too, and you can also read all the beautiful things people have written on there that have come in the past as well.
Oh, fantastic. So yoga ayurveda center.com.au.
Yeah, that's right.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being a part of the show. It's been an absolute honor to share you with everybody.
Yeah.
Really, really enjoyed it. And thank you for your wealth of knowledge.
Yeah. Thank you, Carren. Thanks, Cyndi. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So for all of our listeners, hopefully you guys have really gotten something out of today's show. It's just another perspective and another way to look at the way that you manage your health and your well-being for yourself and for your family. Investigate Ayurveda. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. Honestly, I can't speak more highly of it in terms of education and comprehension that just makes sense. And it allows you to intuitively pay attention to what your body needs and what your heart needs. Anywho, I could go on too. So for any of you guys who've got any questions or comments, if you want to know anything more, just hit us up at allthews.facebook.com/up-for-a-chat. You can also go to allthews.thewellnesscouch.com/up-for-a-chat. And what I also want to say while I've got you guys here on the show, don't go anywhere just yet. You are not going to believe what I'm about to tell you. We were inundated when Kim, Cyndi, and I decided to do a hike to Mont Blanc, starting at Chamonix and then hiking around the beautiful mountain of Mont Blanc for 160 kilometers in September 2020. We were inundated and we sold out. We have just had 2 spots come available from a couple that just can't make it. Their plans have changed and they've had to go and make other commitments. So we've got 2 spots available, guys. So if you're interested to come and join Kim, Cyndi, and myself and 15 others on a 13-day hike around Mont Blanc, and then add 5 sumptuous nights on top of that, doing a 5-star gastronomical food tour through Lake Como in Italy, led by our fabulous Cyndi. If you're ready to come and join us or you want to find out more, email me. Email me personally at info@carrensmith.com. So go ahead and do that if you want to know more about it. We've only got 2 spots and we can't hold them. So please make sure that you get in and get in quick. Anyway, make sure that you join us here next week, right here on Up for a Chat, where you get to become part of the ripple effect that's changing the world. We're going to see you on the Ayurvedic ride. Bye for now, everybody.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.